Hi, everyone. I'm Jodie O'Brien, and this is the 3994 Conversations with the people and stories shaping life right here in our community. There is a lot to look forward to in 2026, and today we're going to kick off the new year right. But before we get started, I want to take a quick moment to thank a few of our local partners who make this podcast possible. This show is truly community supported, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. We want to thank the Bunker Club, Greater Than Financial, and the Space Between, and Gina's Cafe. Thank you for believing in local voices and local storytelling. Today's guests are fascinating people. They have fascinating stories. David Sandy has spent more than 3 decades in the entertainment business as a performer, producer, and creative visionary. He is a professional magician and a former international president of the International Brotherhood of Magicians and the youngest person to ever serve in that role. His work has taken him everywhere, from Branson to DC to Malaysia, but what brings him here today is something brand new. David and Lance, who we'll hear about in just a minute, are building a museum devoted to magic and the art of entertaining right here in our county, while also leading Sandy Investment Properties. All right, so Lance, he's also joining us. Lance Rich has been interested in magic, just like David, since they were kids. Lance loves collecting books and props, and he's an author of a book called Neon Dreams. It's basically a research project, including the very first magician who performed on the Vegas Strip. Lance serves on the board of the St. Joseph Museums, and these two are working side by side to bring an experience not just to Northwest Missouri, but truly the entire country. David and Lance, welcome to 3994. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you, Jody. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's so good to see you. David, we were saying the last time I saw you, I think you cut me in half on Live at 5. Do you remember that?
That's true. And you were actually beside yourself.
I was. I mean, I was cut in half, right?
Yeah,
Such a great experience. It was such a great experience. I was just telling my kids about that the other day. Well, David, you once said, because you truly love what you do, you will never work a day in your life. And we see that passion really coming through, especially in this project. Can you tell us about the two of you and this partnership and what you're bringing to Northwest Missouri?
Well, it is a dream come true for me, something that I never thought was possible. Lance and I, we met in 2009, and we found out we had a common interest in magic and producing shows and entertainment. So we had lots to talk about. And to this day, we still have lots to talk about because our passions align practically perfectly. And maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I talked about the idea of building a private museum for the vast collection of magic that we've accumulated. Some of our magic friends call us hoarders because we have so much of it, but it's not much fun the way it is right now because it's all stored away in warehouses and storage facilities, and we can't really enjoy the fruits of our collecting efforts. So we decided that we were going to create a space where primarily, first and foremost, we could enjoy what we've collected, but then we could also share it with others who might be interested in looking at some of this really cool stuff.
Yeah, we have some extraordinary pieces of magic history, including there are a lot of pieces in a lot of magic history that's right here in the St. Joseph and Northwest Missouri area, and we have some. There's one piece in particular that was on stage here at the old St. Joseph Auditorium 70 plus years ago. And we brought it back here to St. Joseph. So
yeah, it left St. Joseph. It actually toured with one of the leading performers of the time, Harry Blackstone, and we came across it and we brought it back. It was in the Chicago area, and believe it or not, one of Harry Blackstone's original assistants, Adele Rendress, she's still living, and we did a Zoom little tape of her explaining how the prop worked because she was in that prop when she was in her 20s, right?
Right, and she's 94 now, or she was when she did this talk with us, and her recall, her memory is incredible. I mean, she's walking us through exactly what her role in it and what Harry Blackstone did, and it was a pretty cool moment.
What's really neat about this, Lance, is that you're on the board of the St. Joseph Museums. And so, how is that support going? I mean, are they just pumping you up and excited to have this new resource in Northwest Missouri?
Yeah, absolutely. They are excited there. In fact, at a board meeting recently, I sort of kind of told what we're doing and how it parallels to the mission statement of the St. Joseph Museums. Um, so yeah, I think we're all excited just to continue to not just support history, but even the history that's here in Northwest Missouri.
And Lance, understand you're the creative one behind this project, and David's more of like, okay, let's talk about two by fours. So
Well,
when we drive by, though, David, like this is a huge building. A lot of us at first were thinking, oh, this is going to be a drive-in, a movie theater, like very simple, be an open field, and then the building started being erected. Can you tell us about what's going to be featured inside?
Well, it's 18,000 square feet, and it will have different areas, of course. One of the primary areas is going to be the museum portion, which is about 2/3 of the building. You'll actually be able to walk through exhibits, or we'll guide you through. And instead of just looking at static magic props, it'll be very interactive. Magical things will happen to you as you pass through the exhibits. But it'll feature not only the museum, but it'll feature some theater space where we can practice and display and show how some of these historic props, were presented a century ago. And that theater will seat about 180 people. So we have lots of friends we want to invite to show this stuff off. There'll be a workshop, there'll be a warehouse area, there'll even be a dining chamber where you can come out and join us for a very magical dinner. We'll bring our friends in, and magic things will happen throughout dinner. There'll be a library. We have a vast collection of magic books, and it's um, it's literally a dream come true. It's like we're building something that we never thought would be possible.
What inspired you, besides having all your stuff in storage, to do something like this here at home? Because you could have gone anywhere in the country and done something similar that would bring visitors from all over, but why here?
Well, I'm from this area. I grew up on a farm about 40 miles east of here on the other side of Cameron, just outside a very small town, Kidder, Missouri. At that time, when I was a kid, the population was 222. And we lived right outside of the city limits. And because there were obviously no magic shops in the area, I would order things through mail order, the magic trick. Sometimes I would do it without my parents knowing it because they didn't want me to spend all my allowance, but I would, and I'd beat them to the mailbox, and hopefully something was there. Kind of an interesting story that relates to this new museum. We lived on a gravel road outside of Kidder, and my address was David Sandy, Kidder, Missouri, 64649. And then when UPS started bringing my deliveries, UPS said, we need an actual address, just Kidder, Missouri's too broad for our drivers. So I went to our local postmaster, who was also my Sunday school teacher, and I told her, I said, UPS needs an address. And she said, well, what would you like it to be? It was easy, no paperwork or bureaucracy back then. And I said, how about Magic Lane? She said, that's good. How's 101 Magic Lane sound? So I grew up at 101 Magic Lane, Kidder, Missouri. It was printed on my business cards, and even my parents' mail started coming to 101 Magic Lane. So when Lance and I purchased the property in Andrew County, right there off of the Belt Highway or 71 Highway, MoDOT, because they needed to, it's technically a street that comes into our property, we had to come up with a name. So, of course, to bring it full circle, our museum is at 101 Magic Lane, St. Joseph, Missouri. And if you look it up on Google Maps, it'll show you right where the
Yeah,
museum is.
pretty cool thing. I was talking to a friend a couple of months ago and said it's at Magic Lane. And it's like, that sounds like a kid named it. And I said, well, kind of, it did. A kid did name it. How old were you? And
Probably about 11 or
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
So
Yeah. So.
That's incredible. Well, you guys really grew up, loving magic and it really being the heart of your lives. And so if you're thinking about this next generation, we all know as parents how hard it is to get them off their screens doing something different. Is this kind of a passion project in that frame of mind too, to introduce magic and performing to, the next generation?
Well, I think most magicians were inspired to get in magic when they were kids. They either got a magic set for Christmas. Years ago, I used to teach in the summer artscape program here in St. Joseph, and I'd have 6 classes a day. They were always filled up, 20 students each. So I'd have 120 students every year, and I teach them beginning magic. And it was very rewarding for me because you can tell which kids are going to really kind of bite into it. And if they're boys, sometimes they'll let that interest in magic go as they become teenagers and are introduced to girls. The magic goes to the wayside, but there are a few who are still very interested in magic today that I had when I was teaching that to kids, and it's kind of rewarding that way. I'll tell you, Jody, one of the great things about magic and why I encourage kids to get into it, because first of all, magic is a great art that you can do if you learn the secrets and you practice it and you master it. Regardless of your academic skills or your athletic skills, you can do a trick for someone and you'll get some type of feedback, positive feedback or recognition. And it really helps boost the confidence of kids who have challenges in those areas. And also, it makes them feel more comfortable interacting with people because typically, for you to show magic, you're not doing it to a screen like we're talking to you here. You're actually interacting on a very personal basis. And so, I've had a lot of kids say, "Boy, that magic. I'm great in sales now because it made me learn how to talk to people and be comfortable with people." And you kind of find that too. You were kind of a shy kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we talk about being nerds and nerdy things, but you know, it allows you to branch out, to reach out, and plus, nerds are cool. I mean, I just watched the Stranger Things finale where those those nerdy kids defeated these monsters, right?
Mm.
It
So
was phenomenal.
it
Yeah.
was great, right? And I tell you, I don't think it was ever mentioned in the show, but I'm sure in some of those kids' backpacks or whatever, they're carrying a deck of cards to to do some magic tricks.
Mm.
Not too far from Dungeons and Dragons. I
Not
mean,
at
not
all.
too far off.
Not at
Um,
all.
well, I want to jump back in just a moment, but first, I want to say a thank you to someone who's going to be your neighbor there on Highway 71. And they help keep this 3994 podcast going. So we want to shout out to Pancake Pups and Suds. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but they're right there on Highway 71. I take my little Charlie there and appreciate their supports so much. So, Lance, just to jump back in, I want to ask a little bit about your history because we heard that you're an author.
Right.
Have you lived in the area very long? And tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, yeah, I've lived here for 15 years, I believe. Let's see, in what year did I won St. Joe's Talent? If I don't know if you were here during those days when they did that for a couple of years, the Allied Arts Council presented that thing. That was a lot of fun. But I have always had a passion for magic, passion for entertainment, and I grew up. I performed at community theater before I moved on to an amusement park. And that was, I mean, we're talking about like learning things as a child. An amusement park is a great place to kind of hone your skills because it's repetitive. You're doing something 4 times, 5 times a day. And so that was a great time there. But you mentioned being an author, and so at a certain point, I realized I love history. I gave a talk about the magic history of Las Vegas, and that talk was so well received that a publishing company that saw it asked if I'd be interested in adapting it into a book, and so I have, and the book has been very well received, and it's not just and this goes to our museum project as well. It's not just history. I think I really want to tell stories and tell stories that are engaging. And so that means that Yes. If you're a magician and you read the book, if you're a magician and you come through our museum, uh, you're going to be interested. But we're trying to engage and make people who are not magicians interested and passionate about. They don't have to be passionate about magic, but they want to appreciate these stories and this history.
And present magic as an art form because it truly is. I mean, when people think of art forms, you think of music and singing and dance and things like that. But because magic typically incorporates all of those things, it's not just about the secret. There's choreography involved, there's lines that you learn in order to properly present it. And at the end of the day, people who watch a good magician, they have appreciation for what they've just seen. So
Mhm.
and they're entertained too. So we want to kind of give them a little taste of that as well.
Yeah, it really it's a show. It's not a museum experience. It's a theatrical experience.
Hmm.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. As you guys know, I went into television. That was my kind of my art, I guess you would say a little bit. But my daughter is a theater kid and she went the other direction. Granted, she got a little bit of the drama from her mama, right? And so she's been super involved. She's a middle schooler. She's been involved in everything that the Ruby is doing, everything that she could think of or do to hone that craft. Loves it, loves performing. And the exciting part is now Savannah, the school district, has the Performing Arts Center. I wondered if you guys had been there yet and your thoughts on the Savannah School District investing that kind of money in something like that.
I think it's fantastic. We have not had the opportunity to see it yet, although we would love to check it out. But I think it's fantastic. And schools are some of the performing arts centers that high schools are and community colleges are building. Are amazing structures.
Yeah, they rival professional performing arts centers.
Right.
And in some cases, they're even used as professional performing
Exactly.
arts centers.
Exactly. So we're really excited about that. And just the fact that someone, in the decision making or the school board, felt like that was something that's needed because oftentimes the performing arts, when budgets get cut,
It's the first to go.
oftentimes it's the first to go. And so it's wonderful to see that investment.
And actually, I will say too, it's great to have a theater performing arts center, that type of space that's well thought out and well considered. Where the high school I grew up in, yeah, I mean, it was an afterthought. It was like, let's slap some lights up on the on the thing and hang a curtain, and that was
Yeah.
the theater space,
Yeah. Oh,
or
yeah.
Yeah.
or the cafegimatorium.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was my elementary school there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
Growing, growing
that's
up in
exactly what's been
those,
happening.
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So,
There at the middle school, we have a lot of respect for Mr. Crum. He's the theater teacher there and came from Atchison. And he's been putting on these productions in the middle school cafeteria. So that's how, we as parents have been experiencing these kids' talents. And so not only will I give you a tour, but we would love to invite you to this spring's musical. Of course, it's going to be SpongeBob
oh,
there at the Performing Arts Center. And so we're really excited for our kids. Will be the second time they're performing there. And man,
hmm
it just opens up a degree of confidence. And so very exciting to hear that you're going to have a stage and that it's going to be very show focused. We're going to have a little mini Branson, it sounds like, on our hands right there on
very, very.
71.
But we do have phase two of the project after the museum and this building is built. I bought enough land where we could add more of a lodging component. There will be lodging options. They're on the same land that are all magic themed. So we're excited about phase two.
Well, obviously, we want to thank you for investing so much of your time, energy, and money into a project like this. And tell me about how you believe that this intersection right there on 29 and 71 is really going to draw in some visitors. Because, like you've said, I mean, David Copperfield is one of your friends. And so I can't imagine that other, famous magicians aren't going to want to stop in and see what's happening. But do you hope to draw a crowd from, outside of the state?
Well, there are magicians that follow us because of our program and the fact that we appear at a lot of magic conventions, they all know about this. And so, we repeatedly get asked, when's it going to be done? We want to make a trip. We want to make a trip. And I think the location is ideal. Originally, we were going to do it in downtown St. Joseph, but we opted to move it into Andrew County Country Club Village. A lot of the new hotels are right up there in the area, the shopping. So I think our location is perfect. And when we first bought the property, it was zoned residential, but the Country Club Village aldermen and the zoning folks, they've been extremely, extremely supportive and encouraging on this. David Copperfield actually zoomed in to the zoning committee meeting to speak on our behalf, giving the Country Club aldermen and board the assurance that we would do it right. So we really appreciate his support on this.
Wow,
I
that's
don't know whether
incredible.
he will be here because he does 3 and 4 shows a day at the MGM in Las Vegas. He probably won't come for a grand opening, but Jody, you'll certainly be invited.
Oh my gosh, I would love to be there. And when are you thinking that this date is going to be? I know with construction, things get pushed back.
Yeah, I'm telling people the end of the summer, because once the building is done, then, and the contractors leave, we have to go in and use some of our specialized contractors and illusion builders to do the build out on the inside. So people may see the building sitting there in what looks like a complete state, but we're working hard inside, turning a building into an experience.
I mean, I feel like, when you've gone to Tennessee there by Dolly World, you walk into these illusion museums. We're going to have
Mhm.
something like that very close by that our kids and adults can experience. It's going to be great. I'm very
But
excited for
one
you
of the things
guys.
about this, it is very focused, as Lance mentioned earlier. There's a lot of magic history here in this area. My mentor was Fawcett Ross. He's the one who mentored me up until his passing in 1987, and he was a fantastic magician. And so you're going to learn a little bit about the history of magic here in St. Joseph as well, and how the art impacted both of us, and left this indelible mark on our lives to where we would have such a passion to carry it all the way through our.
Well, I want to ask you too, David, just about your investment, kind of a different subject, but with David Sandy Properties. We know that you're a businessman outside of your love for magic. Tell us a little bit about that business because you do run it, right here in Northwest Missouri.
Right. Well, when I was 25, I bought my first rental property there on County Line Road on the Buchanan County side. I still own it to this day. And I just kept investing. My dad told me when I was very young, when we were talking about investments, and he said, David, invest in land because they'll never make any more of it, which is absolutely true. And so I did that. And now I own a lot of properties. And about 11 years ago, I kind of started converting some of the properties into short-term rentals. A lot of people refer to them generically as Airbnbs, but they're fully furnished corporate rentals, and that has been doing very well. It's St. Joseph Lodging, and we
.com.
stjosephLodging.com, and we currently have 16, but we're adding a few more because the demand is there.
We really kind of are based right now in Andrew County. And so our passion really is highlighting how the county is growing and what we're doing from a business sense, on. And so tell me a little bit about your feelings on Andrew growing and what you've seen from that side of things, from the real estate perspective.
Well, real estate in general has appreciated dramatically in value over the years. Properties that I've owned, when I look and see their estimated value, it's unbelievable to me that they've increased that much. Unfortunately, there's still a shortage for housing here in the area, quality housing. I very, very rarely have an opening at one of my long-term rentals. And when I do, it's typically rented before the existing tenant moves out. And that's something that there is a need in the area, but I'm very excited. Lance and I have attended the luncheon the last couple of years there in
Mhm.
Savannah, and we're just really encouraged about some of the positive things that are happening in Andrew County, some of the reports, and I just, that's one of the things that has given me a great amount of peace, knowing that I've invested my life savings in a project in Andrew County. I know that, it'll continue to grow. And, you know, I just think I made the right decision whenever I chose Andrew County.
Very wise at 25. So, economic development wise, yes, we're seeing lots of growth. It's very exciting. But I guess I would be interested to hear both of your takes on starting a small business. There are people out there who maybe have thought about it, dreamed about it. Maybe they've never even thought about it. I never thought about it until there was some kind of a need that I thought, you know what, we can do this. And it takes a lot of confidence. So, what are your thoughts on, again, this next generation investing in this area and what it can mean?
I've always been an entrepreneur from the time I was a kid. I was manufacturing magic tricks in my bedroom after school and sending them out. They'd be sold through magic shops to magicians. I've always loved that side of things. And I never dreamt that I would get into the lodging business, the hotel business, for lack of a better term, until I was in Branson. I used to produce shows in Branson, had a couple theaters down there, and one of my theaters is connected to, I didn't own the theater, I leased it, but it was connected to a hotel, and that's what got me interested in the lodging component. And I I I love speaking to young people. I know I end up sounding like I'm preaching to them, but I fortunately learned at a young age the power of starting, saving, and investing when you're young, because time is your best friend when it comes to watching an investment grow. And I've given some illustrations when I've talked to groups of high school kids or college kids, and just by delaying the saving and investment for 1 year could result in more than $1 million when you become at a retirement age. So um, I very passionate about that. This particular museum is probably the worst business decision I've ever made in my entire life, because it's not a museum. It's not a public museum where you can just walk up and buy a ticket and go through it. It's a private museum. Of course, we would be happy to show off our things, but there's no revenue stream built into this business model, which, you know, that makes it a horrible
It's a
business.
bad idea.
Yes, that's why we want to add the lodging components in phase two. So if someone, in Colombia wants to take their family for a very interesting getaway, they can come and stay in one of our 2-bedroom lodging facilities right there where the museum is being built, and it will all be themed. Your experience staying in the place will be magical in itself. And each one of our separate units will be themed to a famous magician that performed here in St. Joseph in history over the last couple hundred years. So you could come and stay in the Houdini suite or the Blackstone suite, or, and you'll learn more about that particular performer. But, if you stay in one of our properties, you'll also get a tour of the museum too.
We're looking forward to the opening. We're behind you 100%. And just thank you for being with us today and really educating us on what's going on Highway 71.
Thank you so much, Jody. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, as we wrap up today, I just want to thank the rest of our sponsors really quick who support the 3994 and help make these conversations possible. We want to thank North Central Missouri College, United Fiber, and Scooters Coffee right here in Savannah. When you guys support these businesses, you're supporting these local stories and local connections that we get to talk about. You'll find links to all of today's sponsors in the description below. So thank you so much for watching and listening today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please, of course, like, share, subscribe, and share with somebody who cares about what's happening right here at home. I'm Jodie O'Brien. This has been the 3994, and we'll see you next time.